The 48 Laws of Power is a book written by Robert Greene that provides a guide to understanding and mastering the art of power. Here are all of the 48 Laws of Power as outlined in the book, The 48 Laws of Power, by Robert Greene. 1. Never outshine the master. 2. Never put too much trust in friends, learn how to use enemies. 3. Conceal your intentions. 4. Always say less than necessary. 5. So much depends on reputation, guard it with your life. 6. Court attention at all costs. 7. Get others to do the work for you, but always take credit. 8. Make other people come to you, use bait if necessary. 9. Win through your actions, never through argument. 10. Infection, avoid the unhappy and unlucky. 11. Learn to keep people dependent on you. 12. Use selective honesty and generosity to disarm your victim. 13. When asking for help, appeal to people's self-interest. 14. Pose as a friend, work as a spy. 15. Crush your enemy totally. 16. Use absence to increase respect and honor. 17. Keep others in suspended terror, cultivate an air of unpredictability. 18. Do not build fortresses to protect yourself, isolation is dangerous. 19. Know who you're dealing with, do not offend the wrong person. 20. Do not commit to anyone. 21. Play a sucker to catch a sucker, seem dumber than your mark. 22. Use the surrender tactic, transform weakness into power. 23. Concentrate your forces. 24. Play the perfect courtier. 25. Recreate yourself. 26. Keep your hands clean. 27. Play on people's need to believe to create a cult-like following. 28. Enter action with boldness. 29. Plan all the way to the end. 30. Make your accomplishments seem effortless. 31. Control the options, get others to play with the cards you deal. 32. Play to people's fantasies. 33. Discover each man's thumbscrew. 34. Be royal in your own fashion, act like a king to be treated like one. 35. Master the art of timing. 36. Disdain things you cannot have, ignoring them is the best revenge. 37. Create compelling spectacles. 38. Think as you like but behave like others. 39. Stir up waters to catch fish. 40. Despise the free lunch. 41. Avoid stepping into a great man's shoes. 42. Strike the shepherd and the sheep will scatter. 43. Work on the hearts and minds of others. 44. Disarm and infuriate with the mirror effect. 45. Preach the need for change, never reform. 46. Never appear too perfect. 47. Do not go past the mark you aimed for, in victory, learn when to stop. 48. Assume formlessness. The 48 Laws of Power, by Robert Greene uses a variety of stories and examples from history to illustrate the key concepts and strategies presented in the book. Here are a few examples of the stories and examples the author shares in the book. 1. Sun Tzu. The author uses the example of Chinese military strategist Sun Tzu to illustrate the importance of knowing when to attack and when to retreat. He explains how Sun Tzu's strategies in the art of war are still used today in business and politics. Sun Tzu is mentioned in Law 2, Never put too much trust in friends, learn how to use enemies, and Law 3, Conceal your intentions, as an example of how to conceal your intentions and appear invincible to your enemy. 2. Niccolò Machiavelli. The author uses the example of Renaissance philosopher Niccolò Machiavelli to illustrate the importance of appearing powerful. He explains how Machiavelli's book The Prince is still used today as a guide to understanding and manipulating power. Machiavelli is mentioned in Law 14, Pose as a friend, work as a spy, and Law 15, Crush your enemy totally, as an example of how to use charm and deceit to control others. 3. Julius Caesar. The author uses the example of Roman general Julius Caesar to illustrate the importance of building a reputation and guarding it. He explains how Caesar's reputation as a military leader and conqueror helped him gain power and influence in Rome. Julius Caesar is mentioned in Law 14, pose as a friend, work as a spy, as an example of how to use charm and deceit to control others. For Alexander the Great, the author uses the example of Alexander the Great to illustrate the importance of concentration of force and the power of audacity. He explains how Alexander's ability to focus his forces and take bold risks helped him conquer much of the known world. Alexander is mentioned in Law 3, Conceal Your Intentions, as an example of how to conceal your true intentions and appear invincible to your enemies. 5. Louis XIV, the author uses the example of Louis XIV, the French king, to illustrate the importance of creating compelling spectacles. He explains how Louis XIV's court at Versailles was used to impress and intimidate other European leaders and gain power. Louis XIV is mentioned in Law 34, be royal in your own fashion, act like a king to be treated like one, as an example of how to use style, manners, and image to create the illusion of power. 6. Joseph Stalin, the author uses the example of Soviet leader Joseph Stalin to illustrate the importance of keeping your hands clean. He explains how Stalin's ability to avoid blame and shift responsibility onto others helped him maintain power in the Soviet Union. Stalin is mentioned in Law 42, strike the shepherd and the sheep will scatter, as an example of how to destroy the leader and take control of the group. 7. Bill Clinton, the author uses the example of former U.S. President Bill Clinton to illustrate the importance of playing to people's fantasies. Bill Clinton, 42nd President of the United States, is used as an example of how to appeal to people's self-interest when asking for help. He explains how Clinton's ability to connect with people on an emotional level helped him win the presidency. Clinton is mentioned in Law 13, when asking for help, appeal to people's self-interest, as an example of how to appeal to people's self-interest when asking for help. 8. Charles Ponzi, the author uses the example of Charles Ponzi to illustrate the importance of playing on people's need to believe. He explains how Ponzi's pyramid scheme was able to attract investors and make him rich before it collapsed. Ponzi is mentioned in Law 40, despise the free lunch, as an example of how to use false promises and illusion to manipulate others. 9. Cardinal Richelieu, French statesman, is used as an example of how to build a network of spies and use them to gain information and manipulate others. Richelieu is mentioned in Law 14, pose as a friend, work as a spy, and Law 14, make other people come to you, use bait if necessary, as an example of how to build a network of spies and use them to gain information and manipulate others. 10. Charles de Gaulle, French general and statesman, is used as an example of how to use absence to increase respect and honor. Charles de Gaulle is mentioned in Law 16, use absence to increase respect and honor, as an example of how to use absence to increase respect and honor. 11. Winston Churchill, British statesman, is used as an example of how to cultivate an air of unpredictability to keep others in suspended terror. Churchill is mentioned in Law 17, keep others in suspended terror, cultivate an air of unpredictability. 12. Cleopatra, Egyptian queen, is used as an example of how to use charm, seduction, and public spectacle to build a cult-like following. Cleopatra is mentioned in Law 27, play on people's need to believe to create a cult-like following, as an example of how to use charm, seduction, and public spectacle to build a cult-like following. 13. The Medici family, a powerful Renaissance banking and political family, is used as an example of how to use selective honesty and generosity to disarm your victims. The Medici family is mentioned in Law 12, use selective honesty and generosity to disarm your victim, as an example of how to use selective honesty and generosity to disarm your victims. These are just a few examples of the stories and examples the author shares in the book. He also uses examples from many other historical figures and events to provide insight and practical advice on how to apply the laws of power in different situations.